You are listening to Detekt Design Podcast. We are delighted to present to you our latest podcasts, the only place to set your imagination free. Design inspiration comes in many forms. As product designer, trendsetter, or innovator, we find it is important to keep up to date. We are a playground that brings stories and inspirations about design and related projects that make great impacts on your life, hearing someone's life stories and real experiences. Keeping up with trends, tips, and more about world of product design and development. Detekt. We've existed to create your extraordinary experiences.
Hi, this is Michael Waits and welcome to the Detekt Podcast. On this show, we focus on the development of innovative consumer and commercial products that create social impact, harness the latest technologies, and inspire industry leadership. I am recording as usual from True Digital Park, and I'm joined today by Terry Scott, the owner of In Your Zone. I feel like he's recording from his car. How are you doing, Terry?
Very well, thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and you're exactly right. I'm always on the move, so
yeah, I hope you're not
here in the car.
I hope you're not using your car as your quarantine.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay. We can get to that in a second. Can you give our listeners a little bit of your background for context?
Yeah, definitely. So I've grown up in multiple different industries over the years, from the building industry, civil construction, professional truck driver, then mining, where we, underground shotcreting. So it was part of ground support to keep everyone safe. So there was a system and a structure, and that was a real challenging time in an industry, teaching the industry to go from bolt and mesh to shotcrete and bolt. So that really developed a lot of skills that I carry with me today.
Did you say you were driving a truck underground?
Yeah, we drove Agi trucks back then before they were banned, and then all different sorts of machinery. Our spray mech was very unique machinery to be driving underground. So
wow,
yeah, I love driving. I can drive day and night. So give me a machine or a car or motorbike, I'm happy.
So I was telling you this before we started recording, but I've actually done a recording with another guy in his car before, and I think I mentioned this to you. When we were done, 30 minutes after we started, he said, can I put my arm down? And that's why I asked you, like, what are you using as a device? I said, arm down. What do you mean? And he said, I've been holding my phone in front of me like this the whole time. I'm like, dude, you should have told me. So I'm hoping you're on a laptop or something.
I'm on the laptop. Or if I've got my friend NEATO, where you've got the arm and the phone holder, and I think he needs a NEATO. Might have to be able to send him one.
Maybe. We'll get to NEATO in a couple of minutes. But I want to find out from you, how did you go from some of the other industries where you were working into design? And part of the reason why I ask is because most people spend their whole lives, they don't ever change careers from one thing to another thing. But you've changed a couple of times, first of all. And second of all, I've always thought that people who were doing product design, went to design school, apprenticed with somebody, and just spent years figuring it out. How did you get involved and why?
Probably having such a diverse background of jobs.
Yeah.
That was one thing, to become always comfortable in a new environment, starting out, learning, going through the processes and systems again, and always starting from the bottom, going up.
Right.
So that in itself always teaches you have to learn something the way someone else teaches you, and then you adapt your own skills and you sort of add to it your own personal touch to make it more efficient or better to yourself. And so basically it comes back to my internal structure. I'm a real systems and structures person, and I'm a real details man. So combine those two together, and and probably the other aspect to it is both my grandfathers were design engineers. So must just run in the blood or something like that.
Fair enough.
So whereas I took not so much the schooling route,
Right.
I took the actual hands-on, and I was just like anyone else. That basically when I did have that light bulb moment, which was in 2009,
2009.
It really struck me. Before that, I'd had ideas and stuff like that. This one really sort of sunk in. It really hit a nerve, and that awareness of diverse industries gave me that awareness there was such a gap in the market.
Right.
And that's why I was like, oh wow, that's cool. But I was just a narrow person that didn't study this sort of thing,
Right.
Study design or go to university or something specifically for that. And I was like, wow, how do you take this idea and
turn it into something?
Actually into a physical product? And actually good ideas can be taken or ripped off, so to speak. So I had all those questions throughout that process, and it took 3.5 years to conceptualize how the product would work, because while I had a production company, I used to do filming, and Gary at Chevs, we were doing a lot of four-wheel drive aftermarket parts, and I'd be filming the process and the mechanics working on the car, and Gary always used to like look at me with this funny look, going, "What's he looking at?" Like I'd be filming, but I'd be looking
at something else,
and it'd be like,
"Here's the question."
So it was all about.
Yeah, sorry. Here's the question.
All about.
Here's the question I want to ask you, though. Do you mind?
Oh, it's a bit of a delay. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So one of the things I always wonder, right, is, and I ask this question to some of my students when we're trying to sort of iterate and ideate around pain points in their lives or things that they see are insufficient. And I did another recording with some designers that are based in Bangkok, and one of the things that they said to me was, they're not even trying, but when they look around at the world, all they see is imperfection. Does that make sense? And that when they see that imperfection, they're inspired to try to fix it, right?
Yeah, no.
And it seems to me that like that is part of your design focus, that you looked around and thought, what are the things that not just I need, but that people need? And it almost, just based on the NEATO tools that you've built, and I want to get into that in a second, I want to get into that inspiration that you had, but I also want to understand, did you build it for you? Did you build it because there were conversations that you were having with people that were around you? And when it finally hit you, did you feel like a eureka moment, or was it more just like a progression over time of everyone's going to need these things, and now that I have it, I don't think I could live without it? Like, how did that happen?
Probably all of what you just said, if that answers it.
Kind of.
I'll leave it up to you.
Not to me, come on. No, but you know what I mean, right? You know what I mean, right? Yeah. But do you look at the world and see imperfection, or do you look at the world and just think like, and how can I fill these gaps? Like, what does it look like to you out there?
So at the very start, probably my background and understanding through my environment as I grew up.
Right.
I wasn't brought up to look for a commercial value. It was just you're brought up to do your job and find a better way to do your job.
Got it.
That makes it easier on yourself.
Yeah.
And so definitely in the mining aspect, when the situations that we were in and the period of time in the industry that there was a lot of change, we had to innovate a lot to make the job work. And so then when it was the actual NEATO light bulb, I was mucking around on my own car. And so that was like that, oh, okay, my background in diverse industries,
right,
and me being a shed warrior mucking around on the car and understanding the entire industry, I was like, oh, wow, this doesn't just work for me. This works for an entire industry.
Should do.
And that's where I knew how big, right then, straight away, I knew how big the problem was in the industry throughout. And so knowing the different, you have a shed warrior mechanic, which was me, just tinkers at home. You have the professional mechanic that's done his trade. And then you have different mechanics. You have your different industry mechanics. So your car mechanic, your bike mechanic, your boat mechanic, your mining mechanic, heavy machinery. And that's where it was like, wow, I really know that there's nothing on the market that solves this problem. I'm having this problem, and I know everyone else is having this problem, and all my past history I've had this problem, and there's no future to this problem. And that's where it took, as I was trying to say before, it took 3.5 years of filming and watching different mechanics. The filming really gave me that platform to really watch different mechanics in different industries, from race team mechanics to workshop mechanics to me as a shed warrior. And it's like, he's left-handed, he's right-handed.
Right.
They're working in here now, they're working under there, they're working above. So that's why it really took, because I had no other product to copy and paste.
Right, to benchmark it against, right?
Yeah. So this was, and then ultimately the whole umbrella over that would be, I never knew anything about how you would take a problem, have a product, and then commercialize it.
Okay,
so never done that.
So tell me about this. What was it like when you first sat down? I don't know if you drafted it or if you used some CAD. Like, I don't even know if that exists anymore. But how did you actually design this product? What was the process that you went through to do that? And what did you want the end goal to be? When you sat down first, like, I want to design this thing. And then how did you do it? And what did you expect that thing to be at the end?
Yeah, so that was a great process in itself to find the pieces on how to do that from someone that's never done it. And it was starting off with piece of paper and pen and myself sketching it out and working all that first initial process out. Then it was, 3.5 years later, it was like, I spoke to my uncle that was the best person at the time I could go to for advice, and he introduced me to Brian. So Brian's been there from day one. We first had the meeting.
Who's
Brian?
Who's Brian?
Commercialization strategist, trademarks, IP, and so market research and everything like that. And Brian is just one of the most beautiful people you can meet. He's just genuine. You can't fake genuine, and someone that cares about his industry. And as you would know from your history, that there's so much up and down in this phase before it becomes a real thing to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that in itself takes a very unique type of person to be able to see and look over, and especially to see someone like myself so keen, so determined and committed. I just needed to understand the process. And so he became virtually my mentor and really good friend, and also an overseer to the business. And NEATO, where we stand today, and In Your Zone as a brand, is in a better place because of him. So I owe so much to himself and a lot of other people too that have stood up behind.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There's a struggle in the entrepreneurial world, and whether it's a design struggle or a monetary struggle or a confidence struggle, an imposter syndrome struggle, whatever it is, if you don't have the right people around you, we talked about it again offline, no one succeeds alone, right? You said it before. What is that? Teams win championships?
Teams win premierships,
Teams win premierships. And it sounds really trite, but the fact of the matter is it's really true, because like you said, I'm going to use my hand to do this, but the ups and downs are huge. And most people give up for a bunch of different reasons, but most people give up before they get to where they wanted to go. And in a way, it's sad, right? But you clearly did not. You want to talk a little bit more about what the product is itself? I love the colors, by the way. Black and those blues, those are my colors. You can see what I'm wearing. And I love the shirt, so if I can get a shirt, I'm always wanting more shirts.
Absolutely, yep.
I love it. But tell me more about the product, right? And what the thought process was, why you wanted to build this thing, this NEATO thing.
So it comes back to the original sitting down with Brian, his
Right.
understanding of what the possibilities was through which path do you want to choose. And he ultimately, I'll never forget, he said, do you want to build a product that you're just going to flog off?
Right.
Or do you want to build a brand?
Yeah.
And that's where I said, well, it's my dream to build a brand. And so with that question followed a lot of values that you have to tick off to make that happen. And that's where you're talking about that commitment and determination to stick true to those values right through the process, no matter how challenging it is to meet those values. Yeah. And so that was a real good pathfinder. And speaking of the colors, back in the day where the first website I had built, the guys designed the logos. So we had the name, we'd done trademarks, and then it was putting the visual aspect to the name. So the logos, and they came up with the color concept 6.5 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, it was ahead of its time, and ultimately couldn't be happier as a brand owner to still have today. And I see it still being the same way. That's our icon. Where Nike's got their tick, that's our icon, and I can see that icon being forever, like Nike's tick. So,
I like it.
Thank you. So it's those people that, and it's in that process allowing those people to bring their creativity, because ultimately, as you were talking before, anyone that has an idea, and it's such a difficult space, is the creativity of your big vision of the creativity, and what I designed originally as NEATO, the product, to what it is today. It's such a better product today, because during that process, the guys that built the logo and the style guide, to Daniel's team that helped design and build the product, engineer the product, and I seen it and overseen the details of why the product would have to have certain aspects to it. So it's one thing to have the vision, and then there's another aspect to be able to have the patience and that allowance of creativity, allowing other people to be free to create in their space, and then watching all those creativities come together and like a gearbox, it comes together and works. And so in a car's gearbox, if it's running, you can travel a long distance. Smooth. And if you try and smash the teeth up, well, you're going to be sitting in the car park still. So I'd rather be out in a nice windy road and enjoying the adventure.
So tell me about the product itself. Like, what are the components of it? How did you decide which components were necessary? And please tell me at the end why there's a funnel.
That's a great question. So NEATO, we call it the world's best tool management system. Okay. And it's purposely designed to focus on as the saying goes, when your tools are in your toolbox, you'll know where to find them. As soon as you're actively working within arm's reach, is what we call in your zone, your tools end up anywhere and everywhere. So with that, it was how do you have a base? How do you have something that connects attachments that you need, which you'd need multiple attachments with tools. You've got magnetic tools, you've got your phone, you've got your light. So we've got the magnetic tub, the magnet board, then you've got your phone holder that can hold any size phone, charge at any point. You've got your light, which is the next generation light that we have now with amazing new features. And then ultimately the funnel. So it was how do you bring all of those pieces into a smooth, adaptable functionality.
Right.
So then it was another challenge. Well, how do you build performance in that functionality so it becomes a tool of efficiency? It's no good being able to have a tool of efficiency when it's not efficient to use it. So I sort of took the Apple approach, where it really needed to be really easy on the front to use and apply, and then behind the scenes, no one needed to know how difficult it was. So at times during the design process, there was times where we were stuck for probably about 3 months.
Really?
Like there was no design. There was no way to design around certain challenges.
What was one of those challenges? Can you tell me? I'm really curious.
Oh, it's a little bit in-house still.
That's okay.
So
never mind. Go ahead.
It's challenges for our competitors if they want to sort of come to market.
I understand.
So in that there was not just one. There was ultimately just fine tuning.
Right.
And so what people probably don't understand is there's a real physical aspect to this product. When people see the physical aspect, they're like, wow, that's a whole lot of product. When people see this product over the internet, they're a bit like, oh, it's hard to judge the size of it. It's hard to judge the performance of it. It's hard. So that's a challenge in itself there. So with that, like there's many components to a Porsche engine in the NEATO kit that all had to talk to each other for this one product or this one kit to work together efficiently.
How many iterations do you think you went through at scale for like each design, and what was it like? Yeah, I'm sure it was a lot, but I'm really curious because again, I think that's one of the things that most people don't understand. Let me back up for a second. I think people look at something like the iPhone or the NEATO, right? Highly engineered devices, and just think, 3 guys and 2 gals sat in a room one day, whiteboarded it out, gave it away to somebody, and 2 months later they got back the final thing. It's not the way it happens, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not from scratch either.
No.
Yeah, not from innovative first. From an already product in the market.
Right.
Yeah, okay. You just go and buy it and copy it, and definitely. True innovative first take time.
Yeah.
Anything in history that was the first to be innovated into a new market, like a car or certain tools back in the day as well, like a ratchet.
Yeah.
Exactly that. They take time. They've got moving parts and components, and you have a lot to figure out being the first. Like the light bulb, we had a bit to figure out as well. So we were in that space for a long time. So even before we'd done prototype 1, so the process is conceptualization, and then we turn them into proper engineer CAD drawings, and those in themselves, the designer, from my vision of 3.5 years to the designer picking it up very early stages, what they come back to me, the first few drawings they come back, I was like, no. No.
What are those wheels for? I don't understand it.
Yeah. So NEATO has a beautiful outline, and I'd like, when I have time with my graphic designer, the concept drawings and each of those stages, all the way through to the prototyping, and then right through to obviously the manufactured product. And even in that process, from prototype 1, prototype 2, and then also into the tooling phase, we found challenges and changed aspects of the product in the tooling stage that made the product better again, because unless you went into those stages, you would never find the boundaries.
You wouldn't know, right?
No, that's right.
Yeah,
And so then the other aspect to your question earlier was, how did we come up with 5 attachments?
Yeah.
And that was really cool, because I went around and acted like I was doing a business grad sort of education, and I would go to workshops, bike mechanics, boat mechanics, and car mechanics, and mates that tinkered, on different things in their sheds, and then I went to the TAFE, where they teach kids how to be a mechanic and stuff, and I got all the kids in the room, and they all did this questionnaire for me, and so from all them different questionnaires to what's their favorite tool, where do they buy their tools, what's their most used tool throughout the day, and that's how we came up with that initial. These 5 attachments will serve the market industry that we're targeting, which was ultimately when we started out the car mechanic 7 years ago. And then along the way, my best mate, he's a drone pilot, and he was building drones before you could buy DJI in a box. And so watching him, and so when he started to really evolve with professional drones as well, we were testing the prototype out in the field with him. And it's like, holy wow.
Yeah.
I could swear just then, but
you can say whatever you want, but yes, but this is what's kind of cool. This is what's kind of cool, yeah. And that is, I was going to ask you, and you already answered the question, like, what was the target market? So it's car mechanics or some kind of mechanic, right? Either using it in a shed or using it in a, in a place where there are lots of tools lying around. But I feel like I could use this at home, like on a desk. I don't know if you've done that or if you've sold to people like that, but I'm sure you have, because it has a light. I've got paper clips, whatever I'm using. I always need a place to put my phone. If I have a USB charger, I've got to walk over to where the plug is. But all this stuff looks really cool to me. There have to be uses of it that maybe you haven't even considered, but even out in the field, you just like clamp it onto something, start plugging the stuff in, and then you can put all those tools in that he's using to fly the drone. It just seems like it's super useful, no?
Absolutely. And that early on in its stage, and having that much time through conceptualizing and then the design process and testing the prototype, that really brought out how big of an opportunity this was as a product.
Fair enough.
And in that itself, it was like it was really disciplined to stay on the value proposition.
Yeah.
And because ultimately we didn't have an unlimited budget. If we did, we would have brought out 100 pieces, like a Makita kit. We would have brought out the NEATO Makita kit in one hit. So and so many decisions had to come back to what needs to be distinctively different in the marketplace, perform, and also we're building a brand, so that needs to be I'm a tool owner. We all want tools that we can use for many years down the track. So we had to really make sure this was a high quality build, not something that people use once and tell all their mates how shit it was. So,
what was it like? So I don't know this for a fact, but I'm presuming, where in Australia are you actually?
In Melbourne, Australia.
And where was your physical design team? Where was their geography?
So the design engineers to Detekt Design, at first they were in Taiwan. Okay. They had the office. Right. Yeah. So when after prototype 1, we met many challenges that aspects of the product had to change. Yeah. So all the testing though was done in Australia.
Wow.
So that was really interesting to be multi-culture, multi-international, and then parts of the process had to be done internationally.
Yeah.
So there was no one better to test the product than me.
Sure.
And I'm not an engineer, so I can only ask for what I know needs to be done, not
how to do it.
And that's another aspect a lot of people don't really understand is when these engineers, they're amazing people. When they're designing your product, they're not only engineering it for your functionality and needs,
Right.
they're also trying to engineer it for the manufacturing process.
Right.
So that in itself's another story.
Yeah, they're trying to think about it. They're trying to think in multiple levels, right? It is almost like three-dimensional in a way. They're saying, I know what you want. I know how to make that shape. But then how can I possibly, based on the tools that I know exist already, the machine tools, how can I build that thing?
Yeah. That's why I keep coming back to teams win premierships. There's so many people with their years prior of experience that come to that point in the journey that you meet together, and it's like a symphony. You've got the person waving the stick, and you're always wondering what they're waving the stick at. So, but when it comes together, it's a beautiful sound.
It's kind of interesting, right? It looks like the guy that's doing this is useless. Like anybody can do that, but in reality, if everybody is paying attention to what he's doing, then they understand the pace and the cadence of how they're supposed to play. And I have to believe that from an engineering standpoint, and I guess the point that I was trying to make was, if you're in Melbourne and your design team is remote, whether it's in Taiwan or in Bangkok, there are just like innate challenges that come from that. And the idea that you could actually work with a team of people that maybe, at least at the beginning, you'd never met face to face, and they could still design a product of this quality and manufacture it at that quality is amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. That in itself is another aspect to a person's character.
Yeah, for sure.
Can someone achieve that? And the biggest thing it taught me from going to see the team in Taiwan is how valuable relationships are.
God, yeah.
They just took me in, and I was instantly like family, and we had that prior over the internet, phone, and going and it really taught me that still the best form of innovation and creativity is done more efficiently and effectively face to face.
Yeah, no matter what happens, no matter what technology is built, I cannot agree with you more.
Yeah,
gotta be.
It's that energy of human connection.
Yeah.
So
this kind of thing can never be replaced. I'm serious about this. Like that feeling of, and you don't have to touch for sure, but you've got to get to a place where you really feel like you know somebody. It's visceral, and it's in a way it's tactile. Yeah, it's really important.
Agree 200% with you. Yeah. There's with death, I've always said, like, there's no substitute for physical presence.
Agreed.
That's what hurts the most.
Agreed.
So yeah, with trying to achieve something, that personal connection is amazing, and that in itself, we've obviously been manufacturing out of Shenzhen, and Daniel's Detekt teams moved from Taiwan to Bangkok, and so that's been a beautiful experience, being able to always be there and physically see and meet the team, and they are such a great team. Like they really do welcome you in like a family, and two with that, Winkle, that's the manager in Shenzhen. I call him Mr. Shenzhen or Master Winkle because he knows everybody and certain challenges, and what people probably would certainly not understand is that as a startup company trying to build a product, there's a whole different relationship and process to the relationship of manufacturing.
Yeah.
Versus a corporate company that's got big dollars and big manufacturing opportunities. So he's been able to work at a level that I truly believe a lot of people could not do.
Yeah.
That takes certain personalities. And so when I would sit down with Winkle, and there's certain aspects of performance that we wanted out of the product that manufacturers had to understand to talk to Winkle in English, and then my job was done. Right. And I'd sort of sit back and listen to Winkle go to work for me, and you really hope that your representative is got your best interest, understood you,
right,
and that process in itself was like everything's taken away from you. You really have to trust in how you deliver,
yep,
and then the person that works with you, how they then deliver. And here's another key aspect to why NEATO is as good as what it is today, because of that extra effort and that personal relationship has really shone in the product.
yeah.
Like you look at products that are put together by someone, whether it's in their home shed or in the marketplace, and you go, yeah, that's cheap and nasty, or geez, he had a hard time trying to figure that out. Or you look at a real product that you can see there's value in the behind the scenes of there's a team, there's a care aspect to the end consumer. And I believe as a society, when a consumer society gets back to that understanding,
Right,
of what it is between a product of purpose,
right,
and a team versus a product of just let's fill the space.
Yeah, it's a big difference. It's a really big difference. Yeah. And look, let's leave that as our last thought. I want people to understand where they can find more out about NEATO, maybe where they can order it. And then I just want to thank you for taking so much time in your car to do this today. But tell people where they can find out more.
So in your zone, inurzone.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's our home website. We're on social media, In Your Zone,
okay.
Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome.
Purchasing wise, we're still in startup, so we've only manufactured the first 300.
Okay. Awesome.
So anyone in Europe or the UK, it's more of they have to reach out at the moment.
Okay.
Where we're as the US and Australia, it's more. See, there's another aspect we can talk a lot about too, is bringing the product to market and being regional and global. It takes a lot of money and a lot of effort to try and do that.
Yeah.
And then anyone that wants to reach out through the website personally and find out more directly, I'm always a big one to have relationships and talk directly and this is the best form of education for a lot of people.
Agreed.
So I really wanted to thank you for today as well. That's a big. I just really appreciate your time and effort, and
it's my pleasure.
And it's moments like this. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really my pleasure. I really want to thank you, and I want people to know your name, Terry Scott, the owner of In Your Zone. I love the name of that company, and I love that logo. I want to point at it on your shirt so people can see it. Like, I love that logo.
The icon?
Yeah, the icon is awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Terry.
Yeah.
You are listening to Detekt Design Podcast. We are delighted to present to you our latest podcasts, the only place to set your imagination free. Design inspiration comes in many forms. As product designer, trendsetter, or innovator, we find it is important to keep up to date. We are a playground that brings stories and inspirations about design and related projects that make great impacts on your life, hearing someone's life stories and real experiences. Keeping up with trends, tips, and more about world of product design and development. Detekt. We've existed to create your extraordinary experiences.